Just be who you actually are and try to be better than that person every day. All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. Hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you, and let's party. So guys, this is a really interesting little conversation that I was not expecting. Apparently, Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson just had like a little Zoom call about Bill Cosby. What did they say? Let's check it out.
You should talk about Bill Cosby, but I saw him live. And
I saw him live too when I was a security guard.
Oh yeah?
I saw him live. Yeah, I was a security guard at Great Woods. I saw Kinnison there when I was a security guard. I saw Rodney Dangerfield there. Yeah, I saw quite a few people there.
That's crazy to have like not only just seen somebody as like an act but being in the industry and looking up to that person and then seeing what had happened. Like, jeez.
Yeah, well, it was something to see him sit on his stool with his cigar and get the whole audience like literally hysterical. I mean, the guy in front of me was rocking back and forth so hard he could hardly breathe. His wife kept elbowing him to get him to kind of, turn back into something vaguely resembling a human being.
And then he went and slipped a Mickey.
But it's really amazing to see someone with that much command of the audience and so consistently, unbelievably funny.
He's the most tragic story in all of show business.
Yep.
Man, it's a catastrophe.
Yeah, I mean, there is no bigger fall from grace. Like, we've had falls from grace, but nobody has been that high and fallen that hard. Gone from the guy to represent all that is wholesome to be the guy that represents all that is evil and demonic in the world. Even Harvey Weinstein was not, he wasn't up there. Like, yes, people in the industry knew who he was. He was rich, he was famous, he was loved. But he wasn't out there like Bill Cosby.
Next to Michael Jackson and O.J. Simpson.
Michael Jackson.
And those are the three most tragic stories in show business.
Absolutely, unquestionably. Those are the top three. O.J., Michael Jackson, and Bill Cosby. But again, I think because the Michael Jackson stuff, because Michael Jackson was a bigger star than Bill Cosby. I would say if you had to say at their height, you would say Michael Jackson, Bill Cosby, O.J. But again, all three cases, they were up so high and fell so hard.
In my mind.
Yeah.
And he's a monster. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
And brilliant comedian is a monster.
What the hell? The thing that's so strange about Cosby, you'd think, well, like, was this really necessary? Like,
hell no.
Man, the guy was famous in 15 different directions and really well respected. You wouldn't have think he would have had to date his women.
Yeah, but it's clearly not about that. Like, what they've always said that our pay, as we call it on this channel, is about power. And that's clearly the case with Cosby, because he could have gone with anybody. But instead, he chose to be a monster. And if you'll remember, I did a video from one of Jordan Peterson's talks about being a monster and understanding the monster that's inside you, but taming that monster. The problem is that Bill Cosby saw that he has a monster inside of him, and he never tamed it.
It's just...
Well, yeah, I mean, he could have just had prostitutes. I mean, if he really just needed sex, I don't think that's what it was.
Exactly.
I think there was a sick perversion, and I think he liked to do that to people. He liked to trick them. I mean, I'm just guessing, right?
Well, it has to be something like that, because it's so counterproductive and so
psychotic.
Psychotic is a fantastic word. Like, there is no, because where have you even ever heard of people doing that? Like on a except for like the seedy underbelly people. Like, that's always been such a scummy thing to do in terms of, I mean, it's always been a scummy thing to do, but it was always seen as such a scummy thing to do. Like, what was it that Spanish soccer coach or whatever, they had just won the World Cup or something and gave a kiss to one of the players. Totally inappropriate. But I mean, far away from what Bill Cosby does. And my point is that I'm not excusing that behavior. But what I'm saying is that, 50 years ago, that would be nothing. Maybe not even 50 years ago. But 50 years ago, drugging somebody and taking them back to your room and having your way with them, that was never okay.
It's psychotic. I mean, I don't understand it. I've tried to sort of imagine what it must have been like to be around in the 50s and the 60s. I think people did that to each other way more often than we'd like to admit. And I think that it was more casual than we would think of today, where people would slip someone a Mickey.
Yep, there it is.
I mean, he even had a bit that he did way back in the day about giving someone Spanish fly.
Yikes. But even like the fact that that's a joke, that's the premise of a joke, it's so ridiculous that it would never be real, right? That can't be real. He's just making jokes.
That you'd give someone something that would make them horny.
Right.
I think he was probably a guy that had an incredibly inflated opinion of himself, didn't want anybody to ever reject him, experienced that a few times. Again, this is pure speculation, and just decided that he was better than people, that he could just drug them.
It's so strange, though, because his comedy was basically so, like, it was generally family oriented. It was,
yes,
and he put himself forward as a role model, and he was credible. Like, he was credible as an actor, as a role model, and he seemed credible as a spokesperson.
You never want to meet your heroes. You never want to meet your heroes, and you never know who the person behind the camera. You don't know who I am. I could be, a murderer. I mean, it'd be funny to watch little old me try to murder somebody, but you know what I mean? You never know.
Kind of makes me think, there's this idea that the psychoanalysts had. There's a guy named Erich Neumann who was a student of Carl Jung's, and one of the things that Neumann said, he wrote a book called Depth Psychology and the New Ethic right after World War II, and it's a great book, a little thin book, but it's a great book. And one of the things he says in that book is, don't be better than you are.
Don't be better than you are. Because I know he's going to explain this. So if I had to guess, don't be better than you are. That sounds to me like don't push forward this projection of who you are that's better than who you actually are, because you'll never be able to live up to that. Just be who you actually are and try to be better than that person every day. That's to be my guess.
And what he meant was, he didn't mean don't improve, like, because that would be foolish. He meant beware of adopting a persona that makes you a far better person than you actually are, because all of that part of you that you're not admitting to, that's going to go off and have its own life. Absolutely.
And I mean, obviously, it wasn't that hard to figure out what he meant, given the context of Bill Cosby, but that I'd never heard that before. And that's there's the opposite, or is it the opposite? I don't know. There's this notion of the imposter syndrome that, when you start a new job or, you become a parent and you're like, you think that everybody else knows how to do their thing. They know how to be a mother. They know how to, whatever the role is. You're like, I can't do this. That's not me. I don't know. But everybody's like that. So when you think about it, there is value to other people in being authentic, because then it allows other people to feel like they can be authentic. And the more authentic we are, the better off society is. I mean, can we really argue with that? So definitely go check out the rest of what they said. But I mean, I thought it was really cool that they were doing this, and you don't really hear much about the psychology of Bill Cosby that often. So shout out to Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, guys. Once again, I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, I am out of here. Peace.